Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. My name is Peter Loshak. This is the Saturday morning last-minute show that Big Man and I are going to do every Saturday. We're a little bit late right now because of some tech issues, but that's no problem. Big Man and I are not tech experts, but what are we, Big Man? College football odds experts, aren't we, Big Man?
We sure try, Peter. Yeah, we're not the computer people, but we sure try to be college football guys. Sorry for the late start. Let's rock.
Yes, let's rock. The bad news is we're starting a little bit late. The good news is we got some awesome information, Big Man. All right, so let's quickly review what I've given out so far this week in college football. I did give out Iowa State +3 against Iowa, Big Man. Now I know that Iowa has traditionally been the better team and won this series. This year, though, I'm thinking things are looking a little bit more up for Iowa State. They have great guys at the skill position, and I think they come out with the win. If not, I love the 3-point cushion. Then I also gave a Northwestern at -3. That's gone down to 2 or 2.5, but I think I'm still okay with my bet there. And then I also gave Indiana at -3, which is now up to 3.5 or 4, and was also revealed to be one of the sharp sides by Brent from BetDSI in the DSI show that we did. So those are the 3 plays I've already given out. If you tell me on Indiana, you beat the move and got a sharp play. If you tell me on Northwestern, you have a worse line now, which is a little bit concerning, but I understand it. And I'm like an Iowa State. First of all, Big Man, you have anything to say, disagreeing, or agreeing with any of those picks?
Yeah, kind of wondering about that Northwestern line, why that's going down. I mean, you would think that Northwestern's the play there. Why is the line going down? I guess people are buying into a little bit with David Cutcliffe's group there. But, Northwestern, had kind of a tough game week 1. But, it's kind of a weird move. I don't know that I understand. But your other couple picks I can't disagree with. I like Indiana. I think they get the job done. They looked really good against Virginia, Ohio State. Much easier opponent this week. I agree. I got to ask you.
I actually kind of do understand the Duke line move because Duke is, a good program, and they do have some positives here. So I actually kind of understand the line move. It's just like Northwestern looks like a strong version of who they are, and their offensive line I think should be okay. And I think that so I kind of understand the line and the move. I just feel like I'm giving the edge to Northwestern there. So yeah, I guess I probably would definitely identify that one as the pick out of the 3 that I'm liking the least. But I am still on it. All right, before we go into a game by game breakdown, Big Man, what picks have you given out this week, and what picks you'd like to add to our official record tracking here?
Well, I told Peter that I would add all my picks at the end of the week. I told you that I'm confident that, I'm doing that. But I'm going to tell you what, I'll go with some of the picks I gave out. Drew Martin and I did a show, the Big Man Bet Buffet, Peter. You got to love that name, Bet Buffet. I like Navy, and I gotta ask you about the line. I mean, it's been plummeting all week. I mean, it opened about 13. It's down to 10 now. For the sake of the show, I'll give out 13 because that's where it was when we did the video. But I guess there's a lot of stock being put into Willie Fritz's new team here. The Naval Academy is a team that I never look to bet against. I always, I think this program's a great program to back. They don't beat themselves. They're disciplined. And I made a case, Peter, for they're playing with a heavy heart this week. Their offensive coordinator, the guy that created the offense there at Navy, Sons has a heart. He needs a heart transplant. He has a heart problem. And from what I understand, the program is really getting behind the kid. And, when you have a Navy or an Army or a team like that, it's really not something you want to step in front of. I think Tulane's just kind of a mini version of Navy. I think they're going to wear them down Navy in the second half. I think they pull away in this game. Surprising to see this number keep plummeting.
Yeah, this was actually I waited. Well, first of all, let's say for this show, why don't we do this? Why don't we say that for your rec keeping in this show, you can give the picks that you've given earlier in the week, but you'll have to take the new line, the current line, if you want to give them. So sometimes that'll be a worse line, sometimes it'll be a much better line as right now. So let's do that.
Okay.
Big Man, you want to give Navy here?
Yeah, I'm going to go Navy. I'll go -10. And for the record, I like them to win this one by 2+ touchdowns. I just have a hard time feeling that Tulane's going to be that much better. I think they'll wear Tulane down in the second half. Navy at home in front of the home cadets, I think they pull away here towards the end. So I'll go Navy in the first pick.
Yeah, so Navy -10. So that's what we'll do. So that means that, if you can give the picks that you've given earlier on in the week, but if there's a worse line, you will have to take the worst line if you still want to give it. On the other hand, we have what you have right now, which is Navy just -10. And I will say that, Navy is a team that I tend to handicap their games late. I looked at the game against FAU last week and didn't look at it until very late. And I made it, wound up making it a top play. I bet it, I max bet it because I realized that they were going to roll FAU. And this spot, that line went up, though. That went in their favor. Oh, no, sorry. It went against them. It went in FAU took money. Again, Navy is getting faded here. The line movement definitely concerns me, confuses me a little bit like you, and I'm going to revisit this game a little bit later. A lot of these games I do tend to make my final decision on closer to kickoff. All right, one game that I'm sure everyone is looking at and wondering about, and we have seen a big line move on, and that is a 12 o'clock game. It's Louisville's game right now. Of course, they have a big game on tap, Clemson, coming up next week. And, they were opened up as an 8-point favorite. They increased the line is increased to 10.5 or 11. I'm seeing BetDSI holding at 9.5. Well, that might be a late line. I'm not sure here on SBR odds. But obviously a huge game for Louisville next week. They struggled to cover their first game. And my sense is that Louisville this year might be, because of all the hype surrounding them, might be a little bit overvalued as a big favorite as they were last week. But against middling teams like this, where they're not, where the competition is good enough, so they're not a huge favorite, they more likely than not, especially early on in the year, are going to come out with wins and are probably a good bet here. Maybe on the first half at 6.5. What's your take on this one? You think Louisville rolls, or they struggle again to cover?
No, I think they roll here. I was not impressed with what I seen, and I think going in the year, Peter, you kind of, when you look at these teams, you think where you think they're going to go power rating wise. I wasn't very high on North Carolina. They just lost so much from last year's team, and their coach is a good coach, but it's hard to take that much talent and kind of move it to this year. And I want to shout you out. You had a great pick last week on the Cal Golden Bears covering the number. Yeah. They won the game outright. I wasn't that impressed with Louisville, but they got the job done. They won and moved on.
Right.
I think this is another situation where they're going to pull away late. I think this is like a 45-28 type of game. I think it'll be pretty high scoring. I just don't know that – I don't trust UNC against Lamar Jackson. He should be able to run all over them. I think they get a little bit more convincing win after last week and that close scare. I would agree with you. They should pull away here. First half at 6.5, you said that's not a bad bet at all.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe they're not by a touchdown or more at half here.
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina is still a decent program, but my sense is that this is not the kind of game where Louisville will be overvalued. Though I do expect them to be overvalued at times this year, and to have some surprising duds where everyone's all over them and they completely underwhelm and underperform and don't cover at all. All right, so let's see. What else do we have here? I forgot. Wait. Hold on a second. Let's see. All right, is there anything else that you want to bring up before we go game by game? Is there anything else you're liking?
Yeah, I have a couple here. I got to ask you about this one, and it stared me in the face all week, and I get a feeling this team can win the game outright, let alone the points. 339, 340. Syracuse laying 9.5 to Middle Tennessee. I feel like, again, Middle Tennessee had in week one a pretty daunting opponent. Vanderbilt, at this point, great defense. I mean, they really shut that offense down. I'm just not sure Syracuse is going to put up the same, defensive moxie. I know they're not. This should be a high-scoring game. I could see it coming down to the final possession. Is this game kind of smoke and mirrors? Is this like a Syracuse where they just kind of, they end up rolling by 14 towards the end? I think Middle Tennessee is going to be in this game. Their offense is stacked. Syracuse isn't going to put up much of a fight. I think it's a high-scoring game. I mean, Peter, would you be surprised if this one goes to overtime and you get a great almost 3-1 price on Middle Tennessee and they win the game in overtime? I just think 9.5 points seems ridiculous, really.
Yeah. Okay. So I've done a lot of analysis on this game throughout the week. First of all, I did preview this game with Joe Gavazzi, and Joe Gavazzi is definitely a guy when he gives an opinion, I'm sitting there listening, right? Joe Gavazzi basically said exactly what you just said. He said that he likes Middle Tennessee State here. Would not be surprised if there's an outright win. I'm looking at the line right now. It is up at 10 or 9.5. But some of the sharper books do have 9.5. The Greek has lean. They have 9.5. Bookmaker has 9.5. And also, of course, last week Brett told us that Middle Tennessee State was a big sharp play against Vanderbilt. And of course,
I had them last week also.
Yes, and of course they faltered. Now, when things like that happen, This is one thing. This is why watching the Bet DSI show is great, right? This is important stuff I'm going to say right here. Whenever there's a side that takes big, sharp action one week and then just doesn't show up and loses by a mile, doesn't necessarily mean that the sharps were wrong. They were betting that team for specific reasons, and usually those reasons are still in play from week to week. Not always, but usually. And Middle Tennessee State might be a good play here once again. It's interesting that the sharp action hasn't come in here, but the fact they were such a big play from the sharps last week and underwhelmed so much makes me think that they might be a good play here. Also, the only thing that gives me a little bit of hesitation here is that Dino Babers teams tend to have a big boost in their second years, and Syracuse turns a lot of returning talent. They're one of the they turn a lot some of the most. They're one of the top teams in college football in terms of returning experience. So I'm not too jazzed about betting against Syracuse at home, second year with Dino Babers, with the team under Dino Babers, with a team that has a lot of returning talent. But adding it all up, adding it together, I think you're totally right. I think that Middle Tennessee State probably is a great bet getting double digits here. You want to make that official pick, big man?
Yeah, I'm going to. It's hard for me to not think this isn't a back and forth type of game. I think you have good value in the money line here, to be honest. I think Middle Tennessee, that clearly wasn't the team. I think they're much better than they were. Defensively, they need to wake up and play. But overall, I think that quarterback, you're kind of forgetting about that, moving on. Syracuse is a team, and I think you're right. Dino Babers, good coach. They're going to go at warp speed. Over looks good as well. I mean, it's hard to envision this isn't 44-40 or something. Yeah, I'm going to go with it. I'm not getting the best of it, but we'll take the 9.5 here.
No. What I said was that some of the sharper books have 9.5, but the market is split. It's 10 at most places, and some places, most notably Intertops, have 10.5. So we're going to give you 10.5 minus 110.
I'll rock with that. There we go.
And you know what? I'll join you on that. I'm throwing it on myself. Middle Tennessee State plus 10.5 minus 110, and that is a line right now at Intertops. Best line on the board right now for Middle Tennessee, plus 10.5.
Great guys over there at Intertops. Good book. Like that book. Yeah.
Very interesting that the Sharps loved, Middle Tennessee last week and have not as yet bet them this week. If they were on them, they might still. There's still a few hours before kickoff, but has not happened yet. All right, let's see. A lot of very, very interesting games. I don't even know. I'm trying to think about where to start. There's a couple of games with teams that are traditionally very low scoring with low totals involved, understandably, but that I'm thinking about shots with the over, and actually some of them I did bet. One is Iowa and Iowa State, and I think significantly more so. I think I like the over in Boston College and Wake Forest. Now, of course, I liked the under in Boston College's game last week against Northern Illinois, and that one did cash. But Boston College is trying one way or another to ramp things up offensively. They did have some success doing that in their bowl game, and it's a very low total. Again, very understandably so. I think that one might be a sneaky good play on the over 46 approximately. BC and Wake Forest. Again, they're low-scoring teams traditionally, but that's why the total is so low. I think it might be a little bit too low. You think that's dumb as hell, or do you have no opinion on that one?
This is interesting, Peter. I talked with Joe Duffy, on one of our late night on campus shows like a month or two ago, and we were talking about the ACC. It was one of the first previews we did, and he mentioned to me, and I think we agreed, both of us, that Boston College is going to be a little bit of an undervalued over team this year due to the fact that they have a dual threat quarterback or two dual threat quarterbacks. I think they're going to be a little bit more up tempo, and I think you're going to get some good numbers with them. And I think you're seeing it here. I think a lot of people are looking at these two teams and saying, well, this one has 17-13 written all over it. In retrospect, both of these teams have better offenses. They've improved significantly. I think Wake's a team that will be a bowl team this year. They really did some good things there. And I like the more up-tempo, dual threat quarterback that Wake has. I agree with you. I think 46.5, very modest total in college football. And are these defenses at their height? I don't think. I mean, they're very good, but I think we could see like a 28-24 type of game here. That wouldn't surprise me. I think it's too low, and I think you're getting good value on some of these schools that generally are low-scoring teams.
Yeah, you're right. And at 46.5 is just where it's all over the place. Some books are trying to, it's as high as 47 at Bet Online. Pinnacle has 46 though, and Heritage has 45.5. And SBR odds is showing that DSI has 45. Again, I'm not sure if that might be a late feed. I'd be surprised if a DSI has that much of an offline on a total. But Heritage definitely has 45.5, and I will throw that one on there as an official pick over 45.5. Minus 110 Wake Forest and BC over 45.5. I got 45 earlier on in the week, but yeah, I'm liking that one. And then also I'm thinking about it over with the Iowa State game, because Iowa State has better skill position players, I think, than we've seen from them in a long time. Now Iowa does have the same type of awesome defense that they've always had, so that makes me a little bit nervous. But in general, if anyone watched my Big 12 conference preview this year, I said what I was expecting from Iowa State was ATS covers and overs. Their first game against Northern Iowa was a relatively comfortable over and a relatively comfortable cover. I'm on them ATS here against Iowa, and I'm thinking the over might be a play as well. That's a little bit of a super deep dive on that game, big man. Do you have anything to say about that total? Or not?
I actually will agree with you on the skill position players. They have a receiver, Alan Lazard, very good receiver, one of the better ones in the Big 12. Their quarterback, Park, I think is more mobile than they've had in the past. And I agree. I think they're going to look to try to maybe go at a little bit of a faster tempo, maybe kind of get Iowa on their heels a little bit. They're a team you don't want to get into a running, smash mouth football game with. I agree with you. I think they might go a little bit of a different way. Peter, I'm going to look at one here and I'm going to go with it. I was really, I don't even think disappointed is the word. I was appalled at the performance last week.
You were appalled? Wow.
Yes, I really was. I think it's one of the worst upsets I've ever seen. It's disgusting, disgraceful. 351, 352. Baylor, gave up 447 passing yards to Liberty. Look, Texas San Antonio didn't play last week due to the hurricane, but I'm looking at this over and saying, I think Baylor's a team. They moved the football last week. That's not a problem. They're going to put up points. They always do. But I just think defensively they have major issues. Their defensive coordinator, Phil Snow, who came in from Temple, not a good performance last week. They were all under the microscope all week. I think Texas San Antonio can move the ball. The quarterback, Sturm, is really kind of settled in as a good quarterback for the Roadrunners. And they've surprised in years past. They've hung with, when Arizona was pretty good and some other good high-level teams. I think they could put up some points here. 58.5 seems a little low for a Baylor game. I think they're looking at Texas San Antonio as the old Texas San Antonio team when this team's actually pretty dynamic.
So you're like in Baylor here at 15, actually just went down to 14.5 at both Bookmaker and the Greek. As you were giving your analysis, Bookmaker and the Greek both shifted down to 14.5. Interesting, an interesting move in favor of UTSA. Yeah, I was sickened and repulsed by Baylor's performance last week. This is a game that now Bookmaker just went up to 15.5. So and we do see that a lot of Bookmaker, pro book like Bookmaker. If there's big accounts that are going back and forth, sometimes those lines will shift back and forth, minute by minute. So this is a game. It goes off at 8 o'clock Eastern time. I'm gonna look at that one closer to kickoff and make a decision then. But you want to give an official pick on Baylor here?
No, I'm gonna go over 58.5.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, right. So over 58.5. Let me find that line here. Hold on one second. Going all the way down. It is well, we'll give you the Bet Online line, which is 57 minus 110. How about that?
Perfect. I don't know what the hell's wrong with these odds page I have here.
Yeah, it is. Well, no, 58.5. Pinnacle does have 58, and Heritage and Bookmaker have 58.5. So 58.5 is the high end of the market line right now. But yeah, and actually the Bet Online line, I'm not sure if that's a live line. So we'll give you the Pinnacle line, which is 58 minus 107. How about that?
Very good. I'll rock with that. 58. Loose Cunt, our friend Loose Cunt's asking about South Carolina +3 against Missouri. Talk about two teams here that are totally different than normal. Usually you expect these two teams to be kind of lower scoring, defensive type of football teams, but they're totally different now. Missouri's very up tempo. They didn't play any defense last week. Give up 43 points to the Bears of Missouri State. 72. They scored 70. It was kind of like a basketball score, 72-43. At South Carolina, Jake Bentley was great against NC State. Really were able to move the ball. Did have some return touchdowns in that game though. Now Missouri's laying some points here. You got to wonder, it's hard to kind of get involved with that defense. But if I would have told you a couple years ago that you'd see a 71 point or 70 point or plus higher total in these games, what would you say to me, Peter? Those are two teams.
I would say sure, but why not? These college football programs change all the time. You take the highest scoring team in college football right now. 3 years from now, 5 years from now, that they could be anything. They could be the biggest slow it down team in the country. A coaching change or a regime change or even a strategy change within the same coaching regime can change everything on a dime for a college football team.
Yeah, it's wild just how much they've changed. I mean, a year or two ago, they just couldn't move the football at all. But you're right. I mean, new coaches come in, change their tactics. But yeah, I don't have much in that loose con. I mean, it's hard to gauge what those two teams are. You don't have much of a play on that one, do you, Peter?
No, not yet. That is another one with the Saturday. Hopefully by next week, I will be able to. I'll be all caught up. I'm fully caught up on all these teams, so I'll have a strong opinion on all the games by Saturday morning every week. Right now, though, the late games, the 7 o'clock and later games, are games that I'm planning on looking on later on in the day. But I can tell you that obviously expectations were significantly lower for South Carolina this year, and they were a team that I had circled, a team that I was looking to bet on and maybe have some line value, especially as an underdog. And I had them in week 1, and of course that paid off. And I agree with you here. It's I was expecting the line to climb a little bit, which it has. Opened to 2.5. It's now up to 3. I would definitely be leaning South Carolina here. And if I have a final opinion on that one, I will definitely tweet it out before 7 o'clock. But I think leaning South Carolina for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one thing, Peter, also to kind of keep in mind, I mean, there were a couple upsets last week with these FCS, FBS games, plenty of them on the card today. You look for these coaches, I think, to tighten up. I don't think what would be your over-under on upsets by FCS teams today? I mean, think you see any today? Again, I know we haven't capped them or anything, but you got to.
Yeah. I haven't looked at any of the FCS matchups yet. But in general, my FCF games tend to be. I tend to just handicap the FBS team they're playing, and if it's an FBS team that I think is particularly vulnerable or overvalued, that's when I'm looking hard at an upset. And if not, so I think it has more to do with the FBS team that they're playing than the FCS team. But we're probably going to see some more FCS upsets this year today for sure. And I haven't identified which ones, but I'm definitely going to look at them, and I'm sure we'll see a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll look forward to those. Let's go through a couple others here, Peter. I'll maybe add a pick or two. Want to get your opinion quickly on this one early on. You got West Virginia hosting the East Carolina Pirates. East Carolina lost this week to James Madison. They were one of the casuals of one of these upsets. West Virginia lost a tough one to Virginia Tech in that battle of the Virginias. Laying 24.5 here. I'm in the thinking that at home they crush East Carolina. I think East Carolina wins a game or two this year. I think they're really going to struggle. Do they come out pissed off here, West Virginia?
I think that they do. West Virginia is an interesting team. Anyone who watched, again, my Big 12 preview this year knows that in general, I am expecting West Virginia to be overvalued. They're a good team, but I expect them to be a bit overvalued. They lost a lot of talent this year, and I'm expecting them to be overvalued. They did, lose that last game, ATS, although, of course, it came down to the last play. They could have won it against kind of a cupcake like this, coming off a loss that they should be able to beat up on. That's not a situation, I agree with you, where I'm looking to bet against them. And in fact, teams marquee name teams that I'm looking to be overvalued. In general, I'm looking for them to be overvalued against other competitive teams, not necessarily against the cupcakes. Sometimes in those years, they know they're a little bit vulnerable, and so they beat up on the cupcakes. I was thinking about a shot with the over here. East Carolina's game probably should be, their passing game should probably be okay here, at least okay enough, to put up their share of points. And I didn't bet it yet, but I might get to it. And I liked the over on that one when I handicapped the game. I didn't bet it again. It's cutting a little bit close. It is a bit of a high total, and it's one of those games that could be very high scoring to start. And then if West Virginia has a big lead, both teams just sort of quit, in the fourth quarter. But around 66, I'd be looking to the over.
I think the concerning thing about East Carolina is that they didn't just lose; they lost pretty bad to that James Madison team. So that's surely concerning. Peter, a big game that we've talked about, I feel like, on every show this week. But I'd like to hear your opinion. Georgia, Notre Dame. I'm in the camp that thinks that Georgia wears them down late in this game, and it really kind of uses two running backs to really kind of bother a defensive line in Notre Dame that's young. They're inexperienced. Look, I like what I saw from Notre Dame last week against Temple. Wimbush was pretty effective, but this is a whole different defense. This is a defense that I think is going to be one of the better ones in the country. I don't think Wimbush is going to be as mobile this week as he was last week. And look, it hurts that Easton's out, but Fromm was pretty effective last week. You know, you have two young quarterbacks here. It's not like Fromm's the only young quarterback. Wimbush is just as young. You're going to have 15,000 fans here from Georgia. They're really making a trek to this game. I think this is too many points, even at the move to 5. I had a feeling kind of before the season they'd win this game. Clearly that was with Easton, but they've not one but two really good running backs. Just think they're going to wear down Notre Dame. I wouldn't be surprised they escape with a win. We talked yesterday with Dave Mason on that closing line show with Donnie, and he mentioned they were a public side, surely, and they need Notre Dame here. But I'm almost wanting to buy in with the public here at 5 and take Notre Dame or take Georgia here.
Yeah, this is a very tricky game, and again, it's a late start, so it's one that I'm going to look at later this afternoon and make a decision on. And the main reason that I'm concerned, you mentioned the defense is involved, which I agree with. But, of course, as we've seen, there's been a major move to the over, and that move, according to Brett from BetDSI, was driven by sharp action. It opened at 55. It's now all the way up to 58 or 58.5, and Brett told us that sharp action came in on the over at 55.5. Which is a little bit counterintuitive to me and makes me concerned. So I'm going to have to look at. I'm going to monitor the line movement closer to kickoff and make a decision on it much later. Does that sharp action on the over? Because usually sharp action is taking unders, as we know. Sharp action on that over. Does that seem counterintuitive to you as well?
Yeah, I was under the impression this game was more low scoring. I think I mentioned I think this game's going to be a lot of punts early on. Two quarterbacks kind of figuring out what the defense. I mean, you have two real young quarterbacks here, and no disrespect to Temple. I mean, they're one of my favorite teams to root for, but defensively they didn't look good last week. They had a lot of trouble. I think Georgia's going to present a much bigger problem here. I'm surprised that they're betting the over. That's so they're, like you said, usually looking under, but definitely is counterintuitive to what I was thinking. I thought this was more of like a they'd struggle to get to like 50 as opposed to getting the 59, 60, 58.
Right. Sharp action on the over in that one. So again, that's a game that confused me. I'm going to look into it more. I may well have a play on it, and I will tweet it out if I do. Let me give one totals play that I did bet on the overnight line, and I want to give it right now because it's a 12 o'clock kickoff, and that is the over in the Cincinnati Michigan game. Over in Cincinnati, Michigan game. I got it at 50. It's now up to 51. It's creeping up. Pinnacle has a 51 minus 114, and I'll take that one as my official pick. Again, I got 50. We saw last year Michigan in their early games when they're a big favorite. They can have a huge offense and really put up the points. And Cincinnati obviously struggled in their first game. But I'm thinking that because of the way this this game is, of course, Michigan coming off the big game against Florida where they beat. They beat Florida handily. I'm thinking that the defensive intensity might take a tick back here, and that Michigan will have a big offensive day, and that Cincinnati will be able to put up enough points to get this one over. It has been creeping up. It opened at 49.5. I got it at 50. Now it's at 51, and I will give that one as a pick. What do you think about that one, big man? 51.
I'm actually agreeing with you, and I'm going to jump on it with you. I like that play a lot. I've said before, I said it last night on Gabe Morency's show, one thing about Michigan is the coach Luke Fickell. Where did he coach, Peter? Ohio State. Don't think Harbaugh is not going to remember that. I think he's going to run up the score if he has to. Cincinnati was really embarrassing last week. They did win the game against Austin Peay, but they were out-yarded in that game. Austin Peay had a chance to really win that game late, and Austin Peay was winless last year, so that's definitely concerning. He has a tough job there at Cincinnati. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them get 10 points here. I think if they get 10 points, this one will get up and over. Michigan, would you be surprised if they hit this total themselves, Peter? They were crushing teams last year. And I think after kind of the tough first half, I think Wilton Spade will be better in this game. Yeah, I think this is like a 44-13 type of game. I'm going to jump on that with you, 51.5 for 51. I think 51 at Bet Online's the best number.
Yes, we're gonna take 51 minus 114 at Pinnacle, and of course, Big Man and I are looking right now at SBRodds.com, free line shopping tool, which at this point in the day is essential. You can easily compare all the lines that are on offer, and make sure you're getting the best one, because as we know, Big Man, I'm sure you've been anyone who's been doing this for, let's say, a year and a half, knows how vitally important those half points and points are. They do absolutely matter.
And I do want to do one PSA. Just because you get CLV doesn't mean you're going to win. I mean, just because like last week, Peter, 21.5, I got on Fordham. I got the best number, goes down to 16.5. I'm thinking I'm a fucking genius. It's going to be great. And they get absolutely worked. And they could have got 36 and I would have gotten crushed. So, get the best of it. Get the best number. You're betting favorites, early or late. You're betting dogs early in the season. So let's get to some questions, Peter. We got a couple people asking, a lot of Army talk here, a lot of Army midshipman talk. I broke this game down with Drew Martin. And you don't normally see Army laying 15 points, Peter. It's not normal. But this Monken team, they're better. They've gotten much better. They're playing Army here, or playing Buffalo here in a revenge spot. Last year, tough game, rainy, kind of raw up in Buffalo. A lot of people were impressed by Buffalo last week. Had real trouble moving the football. And when you get Army going, Peter, it's hard to stop them. They're like a ball rolling down a hill. It's really something you just don't want to get in front of. And what was so impressive last week about Army is they didn't complete a pass. They just ran the football all night, all day, all night in front of the Cadets today up in West Point. It's going to be a great atmosphere. They have good fans up there. I think they crushed Buffalo. I think Buffalo's just a bad offensive team. They had a brutal run defense last year, 124th. I think they're a lot of the same players there, and I just don't think they're very good. I think this one is kind of gets laughable in the second half. Army should pull away and continue their rushing attack.
Yeah, it's interesting. They did have a terrific run defense last year, which is something that they're going to try to fix this year. But despite the fact they had a terrible run defense, of course, as you mentioned, they did get a win against Army. They were okay against Army last year. Again, they had the home field advantage then, as you mentioned, and Army is probably going to be out for revenge here, so it might be a different situation. This is one game that I did break down pretty in depth in my research, and I passed on both the side and the total, and I think I'm just gonna stay off it. If you gave me a free play right now on it, I probably would take Army here for all the reasons that you just said. It's a different locale, a revenge game, and they should be able to run up the score. But Buffalo does have experience with the triple option. I mean, whatever they did last year is still in their brains, right?
Yeah, definitely is. I definitely think they'll have maybe a little success early, but I just think, second time around, you got to remember in that game, like I said, it wasn't the best weather conditions, adverse weather conditions. Yeah. Should be nice weather up in West Point today. I think it's a little bit of a different situation. And as we know, those military kids don't forget. I think they're kind of the only revenge angle that really works. I mean, I think revenge for the most part kids forget, but people from Army don't.
The hippie kids forget. San Jose State, those kids forget. The Army kids don't forget. Let's get to one of the interesting games, Big Man. You mind if I jump to an interesting game, then we'll get to some questions?
Let's jump to it. Do it.
Let's jump to it. Stanford USC. Now, we were discussing this earlier in the week a lot. A lot of people were discussing it. I gave the opinion that I like the under when it came out at 56. It's now 55 or 54.5, although the Greek has 55.5, a lean to the under. As our regular viewers know, I picked the under in the Stanford-Rice game and got burned on that one. A terrible call on that one. USC did appear to have some problems tackling in their last game. I was expecting USC to be improved on defense this year. They didn't really show that against Western Michigan, but I think that still might be the case. As we know, when Stanford and USC meet, it's usually a low-scoring game. Not always. There was one game that went to the 70s recently, but more often than not, it's a low-scoring game. Of course, Darnold, USC could have an explosive offense here. We saw what Stanford did against Rice, but that's Rice. I don't know. I'm thinking the under might be a good play here. What do you think, Big Man?
This is an interesting one, Peter. They had plenty of time to prepare. David Shaw is going to be ready for this game. I actually like Stanford in this game. I don't feel great betting against UFC just because I do kind of have some feeling that they're going to come out and play well here. Maybe they're looking a little bit ahead last week in that game. But they had no they couldn't stop the run. They had major trouble against Western Michigan's run offense. And Bryce Love is a great running back. I think they're going to pound the football down their throat. And I'm a little concerned with their offense, USC. Their offensive line has had trouble. Look at the first game. They give up a couple sacks, tackles for loss. They have 3 new guys up there. Darnold was decent, but he's got to clean up the interceptions. I don't know if they have a quote-unquote #1 receiver, and the run defense concerns me. Stanford's a team that you don't want to give extra time to prepare. I think Keller Chris is a good quarterback. I like Love, and their secondary is really good. I want to grab the points here. I think this is a game where Stanford really kind of identifies himself. Peter, I'm going to keep saying it. I got them at 110-1 to win the national title, and I'm rooting them in every goddamn game, and this is going to be a big step. Yes. You
think they can beat Ohio State and Alabama?
You know, I'm not sure if they can, but at 110-1, I'm willing to take the shot. You never know, Peter. David Shaw's a real good coach, and I think it could be a special year. Who knows? We'll take a little value there with at over 100-1. It's not about can I think they win. Can they get close? I think they get close.
Maybe the real odd, the true odd should be about 80-1. So are you going to take Stanford as an official pick of this show?
I am. I'm going to take Stanford. I'm going to add that to my official picks here. I've liked it all week. I think they're going to get the job done here. I think they're really going to show people this week that they're a force to be reckoned with out. And I think USC, like always, continues to disappoint.
Yes. See, I thought USC was going to be I thought that the coaching change for USC was really going to help in that regard. But at least as far as week 1 is concerned, that hasn't happened. All right, big man, the line we're going to give you is 6.5 at Pinnacle, -109. And there's been some weird movement. When the line opened early, very weird movement. I asked Brent about this one. When it opened, as we saw, around 5.5 or so, got all the way up to 7. It was 7 at one point, then got back all the way back down to about 5, and now it's creeping back up. Late money appears to be coming in on USC, but again, the game goes off at 8:30 Eastern time, so a ton of time for big action to come in on Stanford. Right now, 6.5 -109. Man, that is really tempting, big man.
It is, isn't it? I mean, even at 5 or 6, I was liking it. Peter, let's rapid fire a couple questions. You dumb porn rat facty here on the chat. I think one of your favorite listeners. He's asking about Penn State, Pittsburgh over. I got to tell you, I think they have a lot of trouble, Pittsburgh, today, stopping Penn State. I think Narduzzi, he's had a lot of trouble with Pittsburgh. Let's be real. His defenses have struggled. Penn State seems like a rolling ball as well. And look, in this matchup, they usually have the best of Pittsburgh. It can be close in some, but I think this Penn State team's a different animal this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that total has taken a huge drop from the opener. It opened at 68 Pinnacle. Now it's 63.5. That is a massive drop there. So I'm not sure about the total, but I agree with you on Penn State. Obviously a big revenge game. Penn State looks like their offense this year is just absolutely awesome. The running back and the passing game, just a vicious tandem. The running back takes big chances, and when he's successful, he gets big runs. When he fails, the passing game bails him out. I think that Penn State, even as a big favorite here, might be a good bet. I don't like at all how Pittsburgh struggled in week 1, and that's not always that doesn't always translate into
Peter,
go ahead. Yeah.
Penn State's defense looked really good in week 1 also.
Yeah.
I think Max Brown, the USC transfer, is going to have some trouble here. They're in for a tough game. Donnie Wright said checking in. What's up, Donnie? He's saying early fades. He's taking Florida Atlantic. I will say this, just one quick point. I think as far as spots on the card today, this could be the worst of them. I mean, Florida Atlantic University off a long game against Navy. Most of their kids are from that area, and that area is getting crushed. Going to get – I'm not trying to be arrogant, but they're going to get knocked out with this hurricane. A tough, big hurricane coming. You got to go on the road. Who knows when you're going to leave Madison? And you have a team with – let's be honest, you have a team with guys that, they're not the most focused group. They have some problems, some of those kids in the, criminally and that kind of thing. I just don't think it's a good spot for them on the road here. I mean, Wisconsin demolished Utah State last week. Kind of similar offenses, both run an up-tempo speed. I think Florida Atlantic's in a tough spot here, Peter, to kind of focus on a game and when are we going to get home? And we got it's not like they can. Lane Kiffin's got to put on the hat in this game. He can't quit or anything. I think it's a tough spot for them here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that performance by Wisconsin, they absolutely dominated Utah State. Unbelievable. I was looking at this game. I was thinking the line has crept up from 57.5 to 59 or 59.5. I was actually leaning under here. Wisconsin, of course, looking as Wisconsin-y as ever, right? A huge running game, big, beefy guys. And I'm not exactly sure, especially after last week, if they're going to be looking, if they're going to be geared up to get another high-scoring blowout win. We might see some like a 52-0 kind of game,
Right.
58-0, something like that. So I was leaning towards the under, and you know what? I will throw that one on as an official pick. Yeah, Florida Atlantic plays an up-tempo offense, but now when they're faced against a team like Wisconsin, I'm just not sure that they're going to be that productive, and I'm just not sure that that Wisconsin is going to be motivated to get a high-scoring blowout win here. I will throw that one on there. FAU Wisconsin under 59.5 minus 115. That's a Pinnacle line right now. Let me see if there's a better line anywhere. Oh, Intertops 59.5 minus 110. So we will take that one. Pinnacle has 59.5 minus 115. Intertops 59.5 minus 110. I know Wisconsin had a huge offensive day yesterday, and I know that there are last week, and I know that there are some strong offensive players on Florida Atlantic. But my sense is this one has underwritten all over it. Do you disagree with that?
No, I don't. I think Florida Atlantic will struggle in this game. I mean, they're a team that runs up tempo. If it's not working, you're going to see a lot of easy possessions. And look, I mean, they dominated Utah State last week. They
dominated them.
They went down 10-0, scored 59 straight. That should only concern you when they get going. Will they keep Will they keep going? Yeah, I think it's like a 42-6. I don't think Florida Atlantic does anything here. I really don't.
I would, though, vaguely agree with Donnie Rightside, though, that Florida Atlantic might beat. I mean, they're getting a hell of a lot of points, a shit ton of points, dude. 33.5, 34. Actually, in that vein, let's talk with. Do you mind if I move on? Do you have anything else to say about the Wisconsin game? Okay, there is a team that's getting a shit ton of points that might actually be a good fade, and that is at 2:00 Eastern time, Texas State against Colorado. And there are some teams that are just like a really good team to bet on when they're getting 30 or 35 points or more than that. Texas State is not one of those teams. They have repeatedly lost over the past bunch of years. And Colorado, as we know, offensively looking great. Now, coming off of their game against Colorado State, a nice win, but it was a low-scoring game. The reports that I've been reading are that they're a little bit they're a little bit disappointed in some aspects of what they did offensively, so they might try to fix that and ramp it up here almost as an exhibition game against Texas State. And, this might be last year Colorado beat Idaho State by 49. They were 45.5-point favorite. They even beat Colorado State by 37. So now it's just 36. That might be a sneaky good bet.
Yeah, Texas State's in my top 5 worst teams in the country pool. Just a mess. Everett Withers does a tough job down there. They can't move the football. Yeah. They actually have a quarterback who used to play at Mississippi State, a dual-threat quarterback, but Colorado looked really good last week, really impressive. I think they're a team that's going to be undervalued. I think a lot of people look at them and think, well, they lost a lot last year, but they're really good on the offensive side. And I think last week showed that they're a damn good defensive team too. Yeah, Texas State's not your team. I think it's a great point by you. They're not a team you want to grab points with. They're usually a team that will struggle to score. And I think that's a blowout, 49-0, something like that. Texas State will be hard-pressed to not score here.
I could see Colorado. Sometimes you're following the games, and I follow them online, and you're thinking like, wow, there's one team that looks a lot better. I wonder if the bad team is going to be competitive here. And you look in the first quarter, score is 28-0.
Right.
This might be one of those games where it's like you look and there's like 4 minutes left in the first quarter. Colorado's already up 21-0, and you're like, holy crap, that was an obvious play. Which makes me think that maybe Colorado in the first half might be worth a shot. What do you think?
Yeah, I think both of them are great plays. Like I said, when you're laying big numbers and you want to grab maybe the underdog, do you think the team can score? I mean, this is not a ridiculously high number. It's not in the 40s, but yeah, I'm hard pressed to think they can go on the road and score points in this game. Colorado should roll here. I'm going to add one other one, Peter. I was got last week with South Florida. What a junk performance against Stony Brook. I laid a big number there and got caught. But I'm going to lay one here and just kind of think that I love this offense. I'm going to go with Ole Miss minus 31.5 against Tennessee Martin. Ole Miss, I'm very high on offensively. I think Shea Patterson will one day be better than Johnny Manziel. I think he's the carbon copy of him. Offensively, they are really, really good. I just don't think Tennessee Martin's going to put up much of a fight. They're not a group in the they're not in the top 25. They're not going to make waves in the FCS this year. And there's no real direction at Ole Miss. I don't think anyone's going to be in anyone's ear to, stop scoring in this game. I just think they roll over Tennessee Martin here. 31.5 for a team like Ole Miss at home seems a little conservative. I think a lot of people are putting way too much stock into them not being able to move the football like usual. Their offense is very good. So I'm going to add that as a big favorite, kind of against one of these smaller teams.
Okay, minus 31.5, minus 117. That's the line at Pinnacle. Other places have a 32.5 and a 33, but Pinnacle has 31.5 minus 117. And interestingly, the Louisville line kickoff is just 5 minutes away. Keeps going up. Now it's up to 12 at Pinnacle. Louisville is a minus 12 at Pinnacle. Interesting. Also, Iowa is taking some money. They're now 3.5 over Iowa State. But look, I'm on Iowa State +3. I don't know what caused that line move in favor of Iowa, but it is what it is. I'm on Iowa State, and yeah, look at that. Louisville just ramping it up. Are you going to? You only have a few more minutes to make a decision here, as do I, on Louisville. Do we want to add that or not? I don't know. It just feels like it could be. I mean, North Carolina is still a solid program. Louisville is notoriously a team that unexpectedly underwhelms. What do you think?
Yeah, I that first half, I keep thinking about it and keep going back to it. You know what, Peter? I'm gonna. If you go with the first half, I'll go with the first. It's up to
I'm not
7.
going with it. I'm not going with it.
Yeah, it's up to 7. Yeah, I'll pass. At 6.5, it looked a lot better. I should have listened when you gave it earlier, but I'm gonna pass on that one. One real quick that I want to ask you about, Peter. I was on Gabe's show last night. We had a sheer disagreement in this game. One of the late games here, super late. You got Washington State laying double digits to Boise. He was in the camp that he didn't think Washington State should be laying 10 points to a team like Boise. He doesn't like Luke Falk, doesn't like Leach. What do you think about that game?
In general, now Boise State's a tricky team this year. In general, I am looking at Boise State to be a team that might have some line value. They've gotten a little bit quirkily unlucky over the past bunch of years. People are looking at them right now as not being the same Boise State team of old. I'm looking at them as being a team that, maybe doesn't quite have the intangible magic, but still has roughly the same caliber of players. Of course, they have a quarterback who can make it all work in Rippey. And so in general, I'm looking at Boise State as a team that I want to be betting on and probably having some line value this year. But I'm very cautious about that because there does seem to be some weird psychological issues with that team, maybe a little bit like starting to be a little bit like a USC or something. Not necessarily, they underachieve to that degree, but that maybe their bad luck on paper over the past few years has not been entirely due to just chance, although maybe it was. So in general, that's another game that I have to look at closely. Obviously, Washington State has been an impressive program and a great bet ATS for a bunch of years now. So that's one that I'm definitely going to look at a lot closer later. As of right now, I have no opinion on that side, except for the fact that in general, I have a lukewarm feeling that Boise State in general is a team that I'm thinking might be undervalued this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team that has disappointed in years past, but should be a good game late. We'll get to the official picks. Just want to remind everyone, 12 o'clock tomorrow, Donnie Rightside and Gabe Morency will be on the air here at SBR Picks. They'll be breaking down the NFL card. Big NFL Sunday at SBR Sports Picks. A lot of halftime breakdowns, and we'll watch games live, all sorts of stuff going on. So catch those guys tomorrow, 12 o'clock. Peter, you want to wrap it up and give our official picks here?
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to wrap it up with the official picks that we have given. Now, as I said earlier in my shows in the morning, for football season, I'm going to give as many picks as I can in the videos that I do. But a lot of the picks, including KC, big man, did you know that I tweeted out KC as a pick about half an hour before kickoff?
That's actually, I actually saw you tweet that out. I actually have your tweets notified me when you tweet.
Nice.
I care that much about you that I have your tweets. You are on that level.
That's why I'm giving everything that I have to it. If I have a lose league football season this year, it's not going to be for lack of effort or a lack of research because I'm giving everything. So the point is that
Peter, hell of a call.
A lot of the picks that I'm going to give this year, I'll give whatever I have in the videos, but A lot of stuff because of time concerns I'm going to have to tweet out. So all today, if I have any picks that I'm liking, in addition to what I'm giving right now, I will tweet it out. But as of right now, this is what we have done. And if I lost anything or forgot anything, let me know. For Big Man, for you, Navy -10, -106. Middle Tennessee +10.5, -110. Ole Miss -31.5, -117. Stanford +6.5, -109. Baylor over 58, -107. And that's it. Did I miss anything, Big Man?
No, that looks good for me right now. Did you get Navy -10?
Navy -10, -106.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
And for me, I got Middle Tennessee +10.5, -110 with Big Man. I got Wake and BC over 45.5, -110. Cincinnati, Michigan over 51. Oh, no, you went on that one as well. Cincinnati, Michigan over 51. That's right.
Sure. Yep.
I got over 51, Cincinnati, Michigan, and I got FAU, Wisconsin under 59.5. And that is in addition to the 3 picks that I gave earlier in the week, which is Northwestern, Iowa State, and what's the other one? Northwestern, Iowa State, and Indiana, of course. All right, Big Man, are there any other plays that you want to give before we wrap this show up?
No, looking forward to a great football week. I know I'm up on the year. I think on these videos,
Yeah.
I think I was 2-3 last week, 2-0 the first week. So I think I'm up 1 game. You're doing your great job as well. Great job in baseball, by the way. Everyone have a great day. We'll be back next week when we review week number 3. Have a great college football Saturday.